one of the things about Ketty is that this land that this happened on, it lies dormant for a while, and then it kind of, things cause this energy in the land to come up and affect people. So I'm wondering if you've ever had any kind of case like that where...
Well, I would imagine with what happened there, the intensity of what happened there, and the violent way it happened, I would imagine some of the spirits of those people are still there.
Oh, they are. They definitely
And
are.
I would imagine that whenever they get upset, or, I find that spirits are like we are, emotional upset and renovation.
Right.
Make them angry.
No. What I'm saying is that before this murder happened, the people that were involved in this, that caused this, it had to do with the land, and it kind of overtook these individuals. So sometimes there can be energy in an area of land that can come up and affect people. Have you ever had anything like that?
I've had people that when they moved into a certain house, suddenly the demeanor of one of the people will change.
There you go. Yeah.
You
Very
become
similar.
angry, very snappy. One couple that I knew had never argued their entire married life, and when they moved into this house, the husband became very angry and yelling at the wife. The kids were wondering, why is Daddy yelling at my mom? But when they would step out of the property, Dad was just the way he always was before.
Yeah.
But I also find that there's usually something black and menacing there also that causes this.
All right, I have
One of the questions that's going to come up now, it's about the black spirits. A lot of people like to call them demons. I call them devil's angels.
Rob, before we get into that, because I'm dying to find out about that, a viewer would like to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. His name is Rob. I think his name is Rob. Oh, well, it's Woonikin. I believe, this person says, I believe I am a psychic, but how do I improve my ability?
Well, he's told me two things about himself already. I believe I'm a psychic. How do I improve my ability? The first thing that I found out, the thing that makes you open up to being a psychic is your confidence in yourself. The ability to realize, to trust yourself and believe in what you're doing and what you're saying. And never ask a person 100 questions and turn around and give them 100 answers. If you're truly a psychic, you're not going to have to ask that person anything. You're going to tell that person.
Does
And if
that
it's not there, don't say it is.
does that answer your question?
But it is confidence in yourself that you have to have.
I would like to ask, okay, this is from Ruth. I would like to ask Rob, when he has visions of something that is going to happen soon, does he let the people know?
If I know those people, yes. As far as something personal with myself, I had to have knee replacement. My knees were really bad. They said I was going to be a cripple, which I'm not today, thank God. But my wife said, we have to have this operation done on your knees right away. And I said, no, we can't because you're going to get sick on me. And she goes, I'll be all right. I said, no, you're going to get sick on me. I can't be laid up. But because of insurance and stuff, she insisted I had it. And when I did, 3 days later, she was diagnosed with carcinoid cancer. And there I was laid up, and there she was in the hospital too. And it was the longest year of my life, I guarantee you.
I bet.
But, if I know someone's going to be hurt and I can help them, definitely I'm going to let them know. But when you're doing readings, you have people sit down and say, don't tell me anything bad.
Oh.
Or, I don't want to know if I'm going to die, or I don't want to know if this is going to happen. What do?
Now, have you ever done a reading where somebody said, go ahead and tell me anything, and you did discover that they were going to maybe die in a year or so, or die
Yes,
in
I have.
You have?
Yes, I have.
And you told them?
Yes, I did.
How, really? And did it really happen?
Yes, it did.
It did. Wow.
Why couldn't they change it?
Because it was medical.
So they didn't listen to you then? I mean, you would have told them it's
Medical, and it had
medical.
gone too far. There was nothing they could do.
Okay.
Is there an instance where, say, this particular person may be killed in a car crash, and could that person change their destiny by never riding in a car again?
Yeah, but it would be easier for them to not be in that car at that day where I see what's going to happen happens.
So, are you able to pick out a day and a time?
If I see something that intense, usually I know exactly when it's going to happen.
So if you
I actually saved one woman's life by telling her not to go home because her husband was going to kill her.
Oh my goodness.
And not only did they find that he had made arrangements to kill her, she also found out later he had a ton of money stashed away in his office, locked up, that she didn't know about.
Oh my God! How'd you find out about the money?
Well, after he was arrested and put in jail, she went through his office, broke open the door, and they found the money.
Oh my God!
She sent me this wonderful batch of red peppers from New Mexico as she went out there, and married a man that looked like Santa Claus, beautiful fellow, nice guy. But still lived there very happily. I still hear from her every once in a while.
I have another question for you from KGB. Rob, oh, it's KGB. I believe he has a show on PTN.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Rob, I've had dreams that have one thing in common. I keep seeing, I don't know what a C in exclamation means.
What?
Question mark?
No, it's a C with an exclamation, and in the dream, I don't know, what does that mean? C with an exclamation.
That's what he sees?
I keep seeing whatever this is in the dream. Any ideas? C17. What's C17? Rob, I've had dreams that have one thing in common. I see C17 in the dreams. What does that mean? C17.
Wow, that could be any kind of number. It has to be something that means something to him.
Yeah.
Any idea, KGB, what C17 might be?
Well, that's what he's asking, isn't it?
Yeah,
One of the
but
first
I mean,
things that
maybe-
pops into my head would be like a locker with a key.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Like at airports they have lockers, or health clubs have
Right.
lockers.
Right.
So
Or
it might mean that there's something in his future that might be good for him once he finds it.
Huh.
Or could, like Ruth said, could it be a hospital room?
Could be a hotel room.
Yeah, that too.
But the
No,
first thing that
it's
popped
some-
into my head was
A
like a
locker.
locker.
A locker.
Well, he'll find out at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or even a airplane seat.
Ooh. Keep us informed on what
Well, whenever you do, don't sit in aisle C.
C17.
Wow.
Interesting questions.
Yeah.
Now the one,
Yeah, they really
the
are.
one person that had asked you if they were possibly psychic, he said
Yeah.
he'd like to explain something. He said, "Let me explain. I can always tell something is going to happen, and it's something not good, but I don't know what it is that is going to happen. I just get these feelings, also not good, and they don't stop until whatever it is going to happen."
Well, like I said before, it all comes with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start being confident in yourself, you'll be able to figure these things out better.
And don't you think, from what I found and what I try and tell people with either being psychic or sensitive or whatever you want to call it, the more you use it, it's like a muscle, the more that you hone your skill. So it's a
Exactly.
matter of being confident, but also using your abilities, and the more you use it, the more that it'll work itself out. You'll get more of a handle on it.
And it's just like the members of my team when they first started. You know, they wanted to be a part of it, but they didn't really experience anything. But over time,
Mm-hmm.
they became more and more sensitive
Yeah.
and started experiencing more and more things.
So because you can see these spirits and you go into these houses after the investigation is done, and then you help these spirits move on, because you can't because you ask them to move on and you see them go into a light, and therefore you can't see them anymore, so you are assuming they've gone into the light.
When a spirit goes through the light and leaves, the entire atmosphere of the house immediately changes. It goes from all this tension and all this heaviness to a calm, light, normal home. And the people that own the home are the first ones to realize that.
Now I had read...
I did an episode of The Unexplained in a police officer's house. And the police officer at the end of the show was explaining how it felt now. And he says it's like you got a house full of people and then they all leave and they're not there anymore.
Right.
And the house is light and empty.
Right. Big. I always think of it as big. Suddenly you've got all this room. It's nice.
Will you help, like, on when you go on to an investigation, and if there's, like, maybe there probably are multiple spirits in the house? Now, they say that your house could have, like this house supposedly has 23 spirits in it. And if you walked into this house and if there really were 23 here, would you be able to see all 23 of them?
Yeah, I think I would.
Oh, okay.
I did a 23-room mansion that had 6 different spirits in it, in 6 different areas of the house. And I went in without the owners telling me anything about any of the spirits that they had seen. But after the investigation was over and they understood everything and I explained everything that I'd seen, they all agreed that that's exactly what they had seen, what I had taken care of.
Now, you know, Rob, this house here has many spirits, and there'll be times when Donna and I are doing our show and we hear knocking on the wall, or they'll be talking to us, and I actually have that recordings, because I'll play back our shows and I'll listen with my earphones and I'll be able to pick up. Now, the one show
Do you
we
actually
had...
hear it at the time of the show?
No.
No.
Oh, no, we don't. We do.
It's
The knocking we
afterwards.
do. We have heard knocking, but we haven't heard the voices.
But we've actually, some of our viewers have heard voices. We don't hear them in the room, but our viewers will hear them.
I'm asking the spirits to say something before the show's over to let you know they're there.
Well, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had a child talking, and I put that on YouTube. I was able to pick that out. Clear as day, we heard him, huh?
Let's since you're
Okay.
talking about, let's
All
talk about children. You're writing a book. No, let's do this
okay.
first, and
Go
we'll do
ahead.
yours.
Okay.
We'll find out what we're going to talk
Okay.
about. So let's talk about the kids.
Well, oftentimes when I'm doing seminars at colleges and stuff, eventually they get around to asking me about, well, there's a couple of questions they ask me about children and about those scariest cases I ever worked, things like that. The children, what we have to understand is our children listen to what we say.
Right.
And especially in the olden days, let's say. But the things that I've run across when it concerns kids, like the story I told you about the little 4-year-old boy, it was his mother that was keeping him here. You know, people don't understand, why would a child stay behind? They're listening to that parent. I had one boy that was in the basement of a house that where he was at used to be a storm cellar, and his father had put him down there during this major tornado and said, you stay right here, you don't leave until I come back to get you. And even after the tornado was over and the boy had died in the tornado, his spirit still did not leave because he was waiting for his father to come and get him.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to be very careful what we tell our children. You know, I mean, and then I've had children that were brutally murdered by someone they loved and were scared to move on. One of my favorite cases was a house, well, it was actually a condominium that this very wealthy woman bought, this beautiful condominium, brand new, nobody had ever lived in it, and moved in and brought her daughter and son in. The son was getting ready to start a business in a faraway city, and the daughter was getting ready to go to college. But they all lived in there together and immediately started having things happen like they'd get a phone call, they'd be on the phone talking, they'd be the only ones in the house, and they'd hear somebody pick up the extension. Or they would hear somebody running down the hallway toward the front door. Or they'd turn everything off at night, go upstairs, go to bed, come down in the morning, everything would be back on. Then her children moved on. The son moved away to start his business. Her daughter went to college. She was left there alone. And these things kept happening to the point where at night upstairs in bed she would hear people or somebody in her daughter's room making noise. And her daughter had a bunch of stuffed animals, and they'd wind up in the floor. And she became very frightened. She was a very religious lady, a Catholic lady. And she called her church, and the church came over, and they prayed and burnt white candles. And then she kind of went to the psychic side, and some of these people, I want to tell you right now, I'm not a very well-liked person by a lot of psychics, and I'm not a very well-liked person by a lot of paranormal groups. And I don't care about that, because I am who I am, and that's what I'm going to be. But when you go into a woman's house and she's emotionally upset, and she's paying you an extraordinary amount of money, which she didn't pay me because I didn't want it, but she did pay this person. And you tell this woman, there's a spirit of a giant bald-headed man with an axe in this house, and he's going to kill you the first chance he gets. You better leave.
Oh my God.
And this woman had her church group come over and pray while she packed up clothes, moved out of the house, actually had a for sale sign in the house, and then she started thinking, well, I can't have somebody buy this house and move in there with this going on. And she got in touch with a fellow by the name of Troy Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy's a good friend of mine, and Troy said, well, call this gentleman, and gave her my name and number. And I met her there, me and an assistant. And this is a great case, and especially because it involves children. We got there, and she handed me the key. She said, you go in first. We went into the house, and beautiful home, condominium. There was a staircase there, and went upstairs to the bedrooms. Living room to my left, I'll never forget it. There was a long hallway, went back to a kitchen, and a big recreational family room, fireplace, big TV and everything. And as we stepped in the door, she came in. I said, where's most of the activity take place? And she said, well, before I left, it was all upstairs. And I started walking up the stairs, and she looked at my assistant and said, where is he? Because it was very dark. She goes, where's he going? He said, upstairs, where they're supposed to be. And she goes, is he crazy? And he goes, yeah, I think so. But I went on upstairs and immediately saw what was going on. It wasn't there was nobody there evil. There was nothing there angry, but there were these two children.
Aww.
And the girl was about 11, the boy was about 6, and she was holding his hand, and she had this long blonde hair, and she had on this like little Easter dress with a pink ribbon, and he was dressed in black slacks, white socks, black shoes, and a white shirt, hair slicked back. He was 6 years old. And long story short, they were in the daughter's room. I went into the daughter's room. They were in this big walk-in closet. And it was my first really intense experience with a child. I hadn't worked with the spirits of children at this time. And I looked at them, and I had my Bible in my hand, and I said, you need to go through the light. And this little girl says, why? And I said, because that's where God wants you to go, is through the light. And she goes, why? And I said, I knew this was going to be difficult. She's reacting to me just like a little kid would. And I said, you need to go through that light because that's where you're going to be happy and everything. And she said, if it's so great, why don't you go through the light? And I said, well, when it's my time, I will go through the light. But I said, it's not my time, but it's your time now. And the woman, unbeknownst to me, told me later that she had came up the stairs and was out in the hallway, and she saw me in her daughter's room, and she was wondering why I had this light in her daughter's bedroom, because this light was shining out on me. Well, I didn't have a light on in her daughter's bedroom. This light was coming from behind them. And she said she flipped on the hall light, and I looked at her and said, don't. And she flipped it back off. I don't remember doing that at all. And anyway, the little girl, I realized, was in charge. She was holding the little boy's hand. He never spoke. And I realized I was going to have problems doing this by myself. But finally, I said this prayer. Now, this is something I do that probably a lot of people don't do, but I pray for help to help these children move on. And the light got brighter, and she didn't step out of the light. She didn't come back into this world, but she was in the light. She was a very elderly woman, and she had this sweet smile. She had these little bitty glasses and this print dress on, and the little girl looked at her, and it was like there was a recognition. And her hand went up, and the elderly woman took it, and her and the little boy started through the light, and she looked back at me and said goodbye.
Oh my God.
And they left.
Oh.
And we found out that in 1956, before the condos were built there, this gentleman had been drinking. He had his kids in the car with him, and that was a big cornfield, and he was coming around the cornfield at a high rate of speed, had a wreck. Both children were thrown out in the cornfield and killed, and he was arrested for criminal negligence, murder, and put in prison. But those two little kids, their spirits, they were killed instantly, had stayed there. And out of the confusion of being dead, I don't know. When the condos were built, they were drawn to her maternal instincts. She already had a daughter and a son, and they were leaving, and they just went and moved in with her. And you think back on everything they were doing, it was all stuff that little kids would do. You know, pick up the extension, run up and down the hallways, turn the lights on, play with the TV, things like that. I didn't see anything. There was nothing they told me that led me to believe there was a giant bald man with an axe.
I love that.
And she never had any trouble after that. As a matter of fact, she lived there for 3 or 4 more years and never had a problem.
Rob, one of our viewers, Deb, she says, why do spirits seem to always hide in closets?
Now this again is only my theory, but I know exactly what she means. I've held so many spirits that were actually in closets. Closets have clothes in it, and it gives the spirit the feeling of being alive again with the human odor of the clothes. And that's the only thing I can come up with is they feel more alive around these clothes than they would anywhere else for some reason.
Okay, so my own question. I run into a lot of spirits in bathrooms. Why do you think they're hanging in bathrooms?
Well, these were spirits that had bowel problems.
They're always.
I've run into a lot of spirits in bathrooms too.
Yeah. Probably because they have your undivided attention.
I've also found this, and you got to remember this when you go into the house too. If there's a new house there, and a spirit is in one section or the other of it, because of my beliefs that they're very territorial. In other words, I went to a house one time where it was an old house, but they had built onto the house. The spirit would never go into the new part of the house. It always stayed where it had lived before.
Oh, right.
But if the whole house is new and on the property where the spirit lived, that bathroom may have been their bedroom, or that closet might have been where they had died, or, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of bathrooms I go in and there they are, and it's like, okay.
Hey, Rob, do you know about attachments? Have you ever seen attachments to people? Have you seen them?
Attachments to people. I'll go ahead and lay this out right away. I don't believe that ghosts jump into people's bodies.
Okay.
I do believe, though, that there can be an attack. I'll put it to you this way, I've had cases where everybody in the family was okay except this one person. And this one person kept experiencing the spirit over and over again. Because there's all different kinds of attachments. And I think in this one situation where this woman was the only one in the house being bothered, the attachment came from the spirit looking at her and her reminding this spirit of someone that he had cared about when he was alive.
Right.
And the resemblance was so strong that he just kept waking her up and trying to be close to her.
But why do some of these attachments cause people to be mean and evil? And they're normally not like that.
We're getting into the subject that brought up earlier.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Devil's angels.
Go ahead. Oh.
I believe that there are times when people are going through very intense personal problems, depression, anxiety, worry, to the point where they start thinking about even suicide, things like this. I think there's times like this when the dark side, something is sent from the dark side to give them that extra push over the edge to make them do something they don't want to do. You see what I'm saying?
No.
Yes.
They become very angry, they become very nasty, and until they finally do something that they would never have done otherwise. And I think that's where these devil's angels come in at. And I've dealt with a lot of them.
Now that you're talking about two separate entities, devils and angels, or are you talking about one entity that you call devil angel?
I'm talking about one entity I call the devil's angel.
Now, what does that mean? Because I haven't heard that term before.
Well, a lot of people refer to demons, and I don't call them demons, I call them devil's angels, because I believe they're sent here for a purpose, one certain purpose. And I remember the very first time I was I had never seen one or dealt with one until I got a phone call from a lady that she was a very well-to-do lady. She had her own business. She was 48, 49 years old. She had lived a very risque life. She had sex, drugs, rock and roll, the whole 9 yards. She had an illegitimate son that was 25. He was never home. She sat down one night and decided that she was going to change her life, and she was going to give her life to God and find a religion that she liked. So this woman had never even prayed in her life. And she was going to find a religion that she liked, and she was going to find God. And she made this vow out loud. She said, I wasn't praying, I was just telling God, I'm going to find you, I'm going to quit all this stuff. And immediately things started happening. She couldn't sleep at night. Things were pulling at her hair, scratching at her face, pulling the covers off. She woke up one morning and she had a very, very beautiful home. I can remember it very clearly. You walked in and there was a sunken living room, high ceiling. Her bedroom was to the left. It even had a window with shutters on it. She could open up and look down on her living room. Kitchen in the back, dining room, spiral staircase went upstairs to a bedroom over the kitchen, and then a long hallway, huge bathroom, walk-in closet, and then her giant bedroom. She had all this furniture in there. She woke up one morning and it was all stacked up around her bed. She couldn't get out of bed. She thought, my son did this. Why would he pull a trick like this on me? Why would he do this to me? And she made her way through this stuff, went to his room. He had never been home. Nothing had been touched. His bed hadn't been slept in. She put it all back. This kept going on. She got afraid, so she started sleeping downstairs on this love seat next to the front door for a fast getaway, I guess. And it still kept going when she was down there, and she wasn't getting much sleep. And she bought a dog, a little Cocker Spaniel, to keep her company. That didn't help anything. And she said at one point she woke up in the middle of the night and heard what she thought was a battle going on. And she said it was people yelling at each other, and she thought it was all about her. But it got to the point where she had to get some rest. She had to get some relief from this. And you're going to think I'm absolutely insane when I tell you this story. I've never told
Oh, no, go ahead. I want to hear it. Dying to hear this.
You will think this is crazy. But that's okay. I don't care. So she starts looking for help. And she called this very famous psychic to this Nashville Stars or something like that. This lady came to her house with a whole entourage of people, walked through her house, went up the spiral staircase, and come back down and said, there is something evil in this house and you should leave. And they left. And so she kept looking for help, and she finally found Troy Taylor, my old buddy. And he said, I can come there and tell you if something's there, but if you want to get rid of something, call this guy, and gave her my name and number. And I drove to Tennessee, and I got there about 6 in the evening, and it's a beautiful house, condominium. And I went in and met the lady. We talked for a long time, and I was pretty excited. This was back when I did things alone, and I was pretty excited about getting started. And, you get on a case, no matter how tired you are, all of a sudden I said, you just go ahead and go to sleep. And I said, we'll turn all the lights out. I will set up, and I will see what's going to happen. And she said, okay. So she went to bed. She went right to sleep. And I sat there in the dark. I got up. I walked all through the house. Didn't feel a thing. Except the dog nipping at my knees. Finally, I even went outside and walked around, and nothing. I came back in. I sat there all night, nothing happened. And about 6:30 in the morning, she woke up and she goes, what happened? I said, nothing. I said, I felt nothing. I saw nothing. I said, I don't think there's anything here. She said, well, that was the first full night's sleep I've had in 3 months. But she said, I'm going to get ready to go to work. She goes, when I leave, you can go upstairs, use my shower, use my bedroom. I don't sleep up there anyway, and get some rest. And then when I get home tonight, we'll talk about it. And I said, okay, sounds good. So she went to work, and I went upstairs. I took a shower, and I walked in the hallway. You come up the spiral staircase, and there's a door to the bathroom, then a hallway. Another door to the same bathroom. Across from it is a big walk-in closet. And then you walk down into this big, beautiful bedroom. Well, I come out of the bathroom, and I walked into the bedroom. And just as I was coming into the bedroom, I get this feeling for the first time that I get when I'm around a spirit. And it's like sticking your finger in a light socket. No pain, just this cool electrical shock all over. And I'm standing with my side to the hallway. And I said out loud, I said, okay, I feel you now. And I said, why don't you show yourself? And I saw for the first time this black thing come out of the bathroom I had just come out of and run across the hall into this closet. And it was a humanoid figure with no genitalia, no face, just black. And I walked down the hallway, and I walked into this huge, dark closet, and I could feel this energy. But I had never seen anything like that or dealt with anything like that, and I thought, what do I do now? And here's where the crazy part comes in. I heard this very calm voice say to me, the battle will take place up here. Go rest. And I walked back into the bedroom and laid down on the bed and went right to sleep. And that night when she came home from work, I said, I don't understand this fully. I told her what happened. I said, you should, we'll have supper and then we'll go upstairs and see what's going to happen. Because I didn't know what was going to happen. And we got upstairs. The dog stayed downstairs. I remember that. We got upstairs, and she got up in the middle of the bed, cross-legged. She had her cigarette. She was a smoker. I sat on the edge of this bed with my Bible, and I'm looking down this hallway. And it was very dark, except right at the top at the end, because the living room had skylights at the top. So there was a little light coming in. And she goes, what do we do now? And I said, I don't know. I just know that I'm supposed to be right here. And I started seeing shadows. I started seeing like these long shadows of long fingers with nails on them coming up the wall, but not coming all the way down the wall, just into the wall. I wasn't scared, but I was very apprehensive because I didn't know how to deal with something like I had seen, because I had only dealt with spirits before this. And we'd been there for about 30 minutes when all of a sudden, in this dark doorway, the doorway was very dark, boom, there's this young man standing there. And he said, Rob, come here. I'll tell you what's going on. Come here. She yells from behind me, Mark, what are you doing home? She recognized what was in the doorway as that's her son. And he ignored her and kept saying to me, come here, Rob, I'll tell you what's going on. And I raised my Bible and I said, I'm not coming down there. And he was gone. And she said, where'd he go? And I said, I don't think he was ever actually really there. And she moved a little closer by me. And suddenly we heard this stretching. It was on the floor, it was in the walls, it was in the ceiling. It sounded like thousands of rats trying to eat their way into the room. And she said to me, what is that? And again, I gave her that most wonderful answer, I don't know. But I know we're supposed to stay right here. And this went on until I believe I looked at my watch, it was like 10:35 p.m. Down at the end of the hall again, in this doorway, this very ugly green face appeared and said, he called her a very dirty name. He said, you can have the blank too, we'll hold her for you. And I started praying. All I knew to do at that point was start praying, and she had saw this too, and she began sobbing and grabbed the back of my shirt. I remember that. And I started praying, and it went away. And she goes, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. I just know I'm supposed to stay right here, and you're supposed to stay where you are. And about 11:30, the dog, the puppy, the little Cocker Spaniel that was downstairs, we heard it screaming. It sounded just like a woman. I'll never forget it. And she said, they're killing my dog. And she jumped up. She was going to run. I said, dog, you go back to where you were at. We're not leaving. And after a minute or so, the sound stopped. You know, I didn't know if the dog was dead or what, but I knew we weren't going to leave that room yet. And I began praying out loud again. Think I'm crazy yet? I know you're about right there, huh?
Oh,
No,
hell
oh God,
no. This is great.
I was praying out loud, and that voice that had told me the battle will take place up here said again, if you can hold them off till midnight, the battle will be won. And I remember thinking, okay, oh God, I just got to keep them, I just got to set it here till midnight. And I had a watch at the time that had an alarm on it, but I never set it, so it went off at noon and midnight every day. And as I was sitting there, the watch went off, and I thought, it's midnight. The scratching stopped. And I handed her my Bible, and I said, I'm going to go check things out. And I started for the door, and I looked at my watch, and it was 5 minutes till midnight. So I backed up, and I took my Bible, and I sat down. And I prayed again, and I knew they had said midnight. It wasn't midnight yet. At midnight, we heard trumpets. Now, it wasn't like Al Hurd or somebody like that, but it was a very beautiful tone. It wasn't a song or anything. It was just these trumpets, and then everything just changed. And I handed her my Bible, and I walked to the stairs, and I went down the stairs into the living room, and the dog was asleep on the couch. It was fine. But that house was not the same. And she came downstairs, and she goes, oh my God, it's like somebody opened up all my doors and windows and let fresh air in. It's so quiet and wonderful. And then she looked at me and she goes, why did this happen? And for some reason I knew. I said, you were trying to find God, but you had been living in the dark side. And I said, when they heard you say you were going to find God, they weren't going to let you go that easy. And I said, you were looking for faith. And I said, God could have sent an angel down to fight this battle for you. But you were looking for faith, and what better way to show you what faith is all about than put an average guy with his Bible between you and them and have him win. Wow. And she still lives there as far as I know.
Damn, that's quite a story. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
no,
Ooh, man, that's a story. Oh, I have another question from Ruth. She said, I would like to ask Rob, when a family member dies, does he believe that they should be buried or put in an urn for the family to keep? Does he feel that this is because the family holds on to their energy and the family won't let them move on?
Well, first of all, I think when a person is getting ready to die, they should let you know what they want done with their body, whether it's cremation or being buried in a grave. And I think that those wishes should be obeyed.
Very important.
And I'll tell you why.
Very important.
Because I got a story for every one of these things.
Go ahead.
I got a call. It's actually, it's not a funny, it's not meant to be funny, but it is a funny story. I got called by this young lady because she had just recently had a baby not too long ago. But she had been seeing this white mist in the house and had been seeing it over her baby's crib. And all of her family had told her she needed to get help and call somebody. So she called me. And I have a very strict rule about when people call me to their house, I don't want a lot of people there. I need all the space and energy, to be something I can pick up on. If you got 15 people standing around you, you're not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to be able to do anything. So anyway, I get to her house, and she lets me in. I walk around the corner, and she has this sectional sofa that goes the entire length of the room and to the right, and there are all these people sitting on it. And I said, who are these people? She goes, these are my relatives. They wanted to be here. And I said, well, you tell those people not to move, to stay right there. And we went walking through the house, and we walked into this bedroom, and I saw this very petite, gray-haired lady with big glasses, and she had on this blue, suit, suit pants and top, and little short, curly, gray perm. And I described to this young girl what I was seeing, and she goes, oh my God, that's my grandma. And Grandma said, that's right. She said, now go into the kitchen and see what's on the refrigerator. And I said, I need to go in your kitchen. And she took me in the kitchen. I looked on the refrigerator. There's this very ornate oak box sitting up there. And I said, what's in that box? And she said, that's Grandma's ashes. And I said, well, what are they doing on your refrigerator? She goes, well, there was a big thing when Grandma died, and she was cremated, and she wanted the ashes strode on, or dumped on her mother and father's grave. And we just never got around to it, and I wound up with them, so I put them up there.
Oh, man.
And I turned around, and there's Grandma. She goes, see, I want my ashes dumped on my mom and dad's grave, but before I go, I got something to say to these people out here. And you got to tell them. Oh, my God. So we go out to this living room, and I got these people I'd never met before. I said, now look, Grandma's here, and she's got something she wants to say to you. But remember, I'm not saying this. She's saying this. And, man, she started in. There was this one guy sitting there. She said, if you don't quit drinking, you'll be dead in 6 months. And told this one girl, if you don't quit picking guys up in bars, you're going to be dead in 6 months, some damn disease. And, she just went down the line. And then she said, okay, I've said everything I wanted to say. She goes, is she going to get my ashes and do what I said? And I asked this girl, and she goes, yes, I'll do it. And she goes, fine, I'm ready to go now. And she leaves. Oh. And I'm thinking, I got to get out this door, because I just gave all these people hell on her behalf. But all of a sudden, I got guys coming up and hugging me, women coming up and hugging me. Thank you. I know that was her. I know that's what she would say to me, blah, blah, blah. And they took Grandma's ashes, and they did what they were supposed to do with them, and she was gone. And no more problems.
Wow. Hey, Rob, have you ever gone into visited a cemetery, and have you ever heard voices coming from down below?
Down below?
Yeah, coming from the ground, saying, hey, I'm here, I'm here.
I'm not one to hang out in cemeteries, but I am the only man to spend the night at Greenwood Cemetery in Decatur, Illinois. And the reason I wanted to do that was because Greenwood Cemetery, during the time of the war and even afterwards, there were murders and suicides committed right there on the property of Greenwood Cemetery. It's a huge, giant cemetery, and I had to get permission to go there. And I was actually locked in by the guy that took care of the place, that lived right on the outside of the gate in this house. And he told me when he locked me in, Troy Taylor arranged it for me. And the guy said, if I hear screams or yells or dogs barking, I don't come out here after dark, so I'm not opening this gate tonight. And lock me in. And I had my truck in there, pickup truck with me, and I had heard where these various spirits were throughout the graveyard. But I wasn't looking for anything that I hadn't already been told about that was supposed to be there. The cemetery has a wonderful history to it. From the time the Confederate soldiers were brought there on boats on the Sagamon River, which is right behind it, and brought up there and buried in a potter's grave, which now they have a big Confederate monument there where all these people are buried. But I had some pretty intense experiences that night in the cemetery with these different spirits, yeah. But I never go to a cemetery just to walk through and see if I pick something up. Because I would personally, if I was a spirit and I was buried in a cemetery, I would not want to hang out in the cemetery.
But that's what I don't understand, because we actually have recordings of a little boy saying, I'm here, I'm down here. Now what is he doing down there?
I'm not saying that there's not spirits there.
But
I'm
why?
saying that the reason they're there has to have something to do with the way they died. That's my belief. I don't think anybody that's just buried in a cemetery because they passed away is going to stay there. But if this little boy was murdered or buried alive, sure, that's probably why he's still there.
So you mean that kid's stuck down there and he's never going to get out?
Maybe he's just telling you where his body is so somebody can
Exactly.
come and get it and then figure out what happened to him. He's saying, look, I'm down here, which is, a kid would say that, I'm down here. Instead of saying my body's down here, they'll say, I'm down here.
There are a lot of spirits that probably want people to know where their bodies are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was up in Bodie, from the 1800s, and there are bodies up there that don't have any markings on them. And my sister just happened to say, is there anybody here? And he said, I'm here, I'm down here. And then, of course, we couldn't hear any voices with our own ears. So again, on her voice recorder, she said, is there anyone here? She had said that several times. And he said, look, I told you, I'm down here. So I don't understand what that was all about.
Well, that's what we just tried to explain to you.
Okay, so this is
He
from
wants you to know where his body is.
He wants you to know where he's at. You weren't seeing him, so he's saying, I'm down here.
So does that mean if somebody else comes up there and says, are you
Yeah,
anybody
he's
here?
gonna
He's
say,
going to
yeah,
get,
yeah.
he's going to say, I'm down here. Why doesn't he just move on? I mean, why is he there?
You don't know that, though. But he's telling you, my body, so I'm assuming he really wants you to find his body. And that, is there a marker there?
Yeah, there was
When I
some,
spent the night in Greenwood Cemetery, like I said, Troy Taylor got me into the cemetery. Part of our agreement was he brought his tour bus through. This was Halloween night, by the way. He brought his tour bus through, and I would give a talk to the people on the bus. And I agreed to that, and I did give a talk, and then they came off the bus, and we were right by the, this is one of the reasons Troy Taylor nicknamed me RD for a real deal.
oh,
We were standing by the Confederate graves, and we were standing close to an unmarked grave, and he was standing next to me, and I said, that's not a Confederate soldier buried there. And he knew about this already, but I didn't. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, that is the body of a black man buried down there that died digging these graves for these Confederate soldiers of a heart attack, and they just buried him there.
wow.
And he said, how did you know that? And I said, because he told me. And he went white and jumped in my lap. But I said, yeah, he just told me that he's buried there.
Oh, interesting. So, okay. So, since you told somebody that there was this black fella buried there, did he leave now? He's gone?
I never saw him again the rest of the night.
Interesting. Wow.
This has
Okay.
been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. Ladies.
Can I have another, wait a minute.
Wonderful.
I have one, I got another question. Wait a minute. I gotta get you while the getting's good here. Okay, so the saying residual haunting, okay? Where something happens over and over and over. Is it really true, Rob? Is there really residual hauntings?
I don't believe that there are residual hauntings where the spirit can't leave. As a matter of fact, I just did a seminar where I was asked this question. But they were under the belief that a residual haunting is something that goes on and on and on and you can't stop it.
Yes.
It's just like a movie. It's like...
That's something right out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because what I have run into spirits that have done the same thing every day.
Yes.
But once I've confronted them and had my talk with them and helped them, they've moved on. They didn't tell me, well, I can't move on because I got to do this again tomorrow. You know, I don't believe in a residual. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. There are people on TV that when they can't explain something, they say it's a residual haunting. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's going to go on and on and on. And I don't want to come off as an expert because one of the first things that I've learned, one of the things I've learned in 22 years, there is no such thing as an expert on the paranormal.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that.
There are professionals, but there are no experts on the paranormal because in 22 years, I still run across things I've never seen before, I've never experienced before, and as long as I keep having that happen to me, there's no way in the world I'm ever going to tell anyone I'm an expert on the paranormal.
But Rob, why do they do that? There's a spirit out in Port Costa, and every night that lady walks McEwen Road, and I know for a fact it's a ghost. And it's a woman. And I believe that she must have died in the 60s because she was wearing a red hooded sweatshirt. Mm-hmm. And you see, red sweatshirts were popular in the 60s, late 50s, 60s. And that's why I figured that was the era that she had come from. And she walks her little collie dog, border collie. And she's there every single night at 4:30 in the morning? About 4:30 in the morning, 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. She is seen on McEwen Road. Now she will run from some people, because you know the word got out about this spirit, and so the teenagers they're always looking for her and they scare her, so she'll run off. But I actually did see her, and I found this on a website, and she's for real. She's a real ghost, but she does the same thing every single night. Now, why do they do that?
Now, that would be an easy case for me, because if I know she's going to be there at the same time every day, to go there, confront her, ask her why she's doing this over and over again, and then see if I can help her.
Boy, that would be so nice.
Yeah, it sounds like she and her dog, I think, were hit by a car. It's a very dark area and windy roads, and I think what happened was she was out, and she's small. Thin. She's thin, right? Little.
Oh, yeah, little.
And she got hit by a car, and they probably didn't even know it and just kept going.
Still trying to get home.
Yep, still trying to get home.
Yeah.
You know, one of the worst things that happened to me was when I read about certain legends of ghosts.
Uh-huh.
And after this first happened to me, and I wanted to experience those ghosts, and I went to these places and found out there was nothing to them. That was very disheartening.
Oh.
And some of them very, very famous. People were making a lot of money off of them. But to find out that it was actually nothing there. You know, I had one gentleman say, you cannot possibly stay up there in that room by yourself because nobody's ever been able to do it. They come running out of there screaming. And I said, okay. And I went up and I sat in this dark room all night. And everything that they said happened. But there was a reasonable explanation for everything that happened.
Mm.
And it all had to do with the construction of the building. There were absolutely no spirits there at all.
Oh.
And then one very famous spirit up around Chicago, I'm not going to mention any names, was only buried in this certain graveyard for 6 weeks and then moved to another graveyard closer to Chicago and was nowhere around this graveyard.
And they moved on. Wow.
Oh my God.
Rob, do you want to tell everybody your website?
Yes, you can find me at robconover.net.
Wonderful.
And you can find Haunted No More there.
Fantastic book. It's on
And
Kindle.
I got this out just for you, Donna. Recognize these people?
Can you see?
Ghost Adventure.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, I recognize them.
Did the premiere episode of their show a year ago. We were in Gettysburg on their show.
They are interesting guys.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
don't
I'll
agree with what
say.
they do. They don't.
Well,
they understand that, but we get along great.
if you've ever seen the episode that I did, I pretty much told Zach that I totally didn't agree with what he was doing, and I thought it was stupid. So
And they put
it
that
on.
on.
I
Oh.
didn't say stupid, but pretty much everybody knew that I was telling him you're an idiot.
Mm.
But I think they're
Like I
great.
said, it's a good thing that you do this in places that aren't habitated, aren't people's homes.
Yes.
And I tell when I do seminars and I have young paranormal groups there to listen, I always tell them, if you go into a person's home, the first thing you have to remember is you have to be honest with those people.
Yes.
Tell them exactly what you can do and what you can't do, and never ever provoke when you're in a person's home.
I adore you. Oh my gosh, I adore you. You're fabulous.
Fabulous guest.
I love you guys too.
Oh, Rob, thank you so much.
Thank you
It
so
was such
much.
a pleasure. I just
enjoyed it.
enjoyed that so much, huh?
Oh, love
It was
it.
great. Thank you. Thank
You guys
you.
will have to be on my show when I get it on.
We'd love to.
Now,
I'll
Rob,
tell you my stories.
Rob is going to have a show on Paranormal TV Network as well.
Wonderful.
And I don't believe he's picked out the day yet, but we'll be advertising.
What you
so-
gonna call it?
A Haunting No More.
Nice.
Nice. Oh, well, we'll be
And
watching.
I'm taking my team and we're going to Ashmore on the 17th, and we're going down there and spend an entire night doing nothing but investigations.
Nice. I'm gonna have to come
And
see
have
you
on the
all.
show, hopefully.
We'll have to come see you all. We'll come see you.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Rob. It was such a pleasure, and we will catch you on your show, too, as well. We will be watching you.
Anytime.
So, everybody, we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week,
Tuesday.
next Tuesday, with
Tuesday.
another guest. Thank you so much.
Blessings
Good
in
night,
the week.
everybody.
Good
Good night, Rob.
Good night.